in Africa as well. In Africa as well. Especially in Nigeria, we follow the UK system. Now, in the UK system, after your BSc, you proceed to an MSc. And that master's will normally last for 4 semesters. There are some cases where the master's is 3 semesters, but on the whole, generally, using the UK system, a master's should not exceed 2 sessions. Now, after your master's in the UK system, you will graduate and then you will apply afresh for a PhD. And then after you have been accepted for the PhD, you will now do 4 sessions or 8 semesters maximum. So the entire postgraduate study in the UK system is 6 sessions, 2 sessions for a master's and 4 sessions for a PhD. However, in the American system, immediately after the BSc, you proceed straight to the PhD. Now, this PhD will normally be for 10 or 5 sessions. The first 2 sessions will be for coursework, which is equivalent to a master's. And the remaining 3 sessions will be for research. And at the end of the program, a PhD is awarded. Now, note that the overall program in the American system is 5 sessions. It's 5 sessions, but in the UK system, it's normally around 6 sessions. It can be less than 6 sessions, but it is expected to be 6 sessions in total. Now, most universities in the United States of America do not advertise masters. Most don't even encourage that applicants apply for a master's. However, there are also very many schools in the United States that you can still apply for a master's. The United States is a very big place, and the total number of universities, you can imagine, try to do a count. So you will still find schools that advertise the masters. Meanwhile, there are some schools too that even if you apply for a PhD and you start the PhD, and after the first 2 sessions, if you want to get a master's degree, there's an arrangement for that as well. But usually it's more or less called a PhD program. You start immediately after your BSc, you spend 5 sessions, and then you get a PhD at the end. So that is why this is possible. Now, another question that a lot of people will be wanting to ask is the fact that we said that there will be funding for the PhD, and that the funding will cover tuition, living expenses, health insurance. For some people, that sounds too good to be true. However, it is indeed true. But I would like to state at this point that the funding is not free money that the universities in the United States of America just want to give out. The funding is usually in the form of graduate assistantship. Now, take note of that phrase, graduate assistantship. A graduate assistant is like an employee of the department or university. The graduate assistant is the lowest cadre in the lecturing profession, especially here in Nigeria. In Nigeria, here in the universities, the lowest rank that a lecturer can have is graduate assistant, and the minimum qualification is a BSc. Interestingly, the American universities do not employ academic staff in the lowest cadres, not just graduate assistants, all the low cadres, they hardly employ academic staff. So instead, what the American schools do is that they use the PhD students to fill the positions of low rank academic staffs. So a graduate assistant in the United States will have responsibilities ranging from teaching undergraduate students, supervising and grading practicals, and other assignments that a typical graduate assistant will do in Nigeria. So sometimes the graduate assistant is described as teaching assistantship, and sometimes it's described as research assistantship, depending on the kind of assignments that the GA is assigned. So if the GA is assigned teaching responsibilities, essentially, then that is a teaching assistantship. And if the GA is assigned to a lab or a professor to assist with the research that is going on in that lab, then the GA is described as research assistantship. Now, the GA appointment comes with a PhD admission. This is more or less like saying that you get admitted for the PhD and you also get employed to work in the university as a graduate assistant. So note, many schools will not give admission for the PhD if they are not ready to give funding in the form of graduate assistantship. So this means that the graduate assistantship is tied to the PhD admission, or you can say that the PhD admission is tied to the graduate assistantship. So if you are applying for a PhD position, you more or less will be getting a graduate assistantship along with the PhD admission. Now, this graduate assistantship is only available for people that are applying for the PhD position because they will be spending 5 sessions, unlike people that will be coming to do a master's that will be spending 2 sessions. So I think that the universities prefer to have people that will be staying for the long haul, so that if they do all their checks and balances right and they pick someone that they believe is competent enough to do all the GA responsibilities, they would like to have that person at least for the next 5 years before they begin another round of looking for fresh appointments. And that's why most times, even on the website of the universities that you are trying to apply to, you will be told there categorically that there is no room for a master's. You either apply for a PhD or you go elsewhere. And I'm going to show us some examples down the line. Now, we're going to look at some case studies, all right? We're going to examine 3 universities: Washington State University, Purdue University, and University of Minnesota. Before I continue, I would like you to know that this information has been available for ages. A lot of people have been taking advantage of the opportunities, but somehow their stories are not being told back home, and it's almost as if people don't know about these opportunities. And the reason is because most times people that get admitted into a PhD program fully funded this way also get the opportunity to work in the United States after the PhD program. Though the option of coming back to Nigeria is also there, but I've not seen anyone that decided to come back to Nigeria after completing the PhD program. So because people don't come back, that's the reason why their stories are not being told, and it's almost like it's fresh information every time I'm talking about it. So let's go to Washington State University. Now, because I am in the Department of Chemistry, I tend to talk more about the opportunities that are available for chemistry. But note that the opportunities are available for everyone, regardless of their field of study, regardless of the course that you study in the university. Whatever course you are studying in the university at the level of the undergraduates, okay, you will find a PhD program that will be fully funded that you can apply to in the United States of America. But like I said, because I'm in the Department of Chemistry, most of my examples will be science-based, but I'm still going to show us some examples outside of the science sphere. Now, this is the web page for the Department of Chemistry in Washington State University. Now, I would like you to, if you can see what I'm showing you here, they talked about assistantships and residency. Your offer of admission to Washington State University and the Department of Chemistry may include financial support in the form of an assistantship valued at approximately $38,000 per year. So this is the amount of money the university is going to make available for people that are applying for a PhD program. All right. Now, note that in this website here, they said may include financial support. This may simply means that the admission is competitive. All right. I will talk more about that later. But be rest assured that more than 90% of the people that will get the admission into this department for a PhD will have this funding. So you see, it also goes further to say that when you are supported on an assistantship, for your gross salary will be about $2,156 per month. Take home, depending on taxes withheld. So the take home is $1,600. So a waiver will cover your tuition of up to $5,445 per semester and health insurance. All students on an assistantship are required to pay. I'm not going to read everything, but I would like you to take your time to go over this after the webinar. Now, look at what is on this site. They are not just advertising that you should come and do a PhD. They are also telling you that once you get admitted for the PhD, you will also get employment in the form of an assistantship, and they have spelled out how much you are going to be paid, you know, and every other detail regarding funding. So this is Department of Chemistry in the College of Arts and Sciences at Washington State University. Okay, good. I'm going to check out another university now. Okay, hold on a little bit. Right. So there's also some more information about the dichotomy between the master's degree and the PhD degree. So you can take your time to read through this later. Now, like I said, in the last page that I showed you, there was this dichotomy trying to explain what happens between people that apply for masters and people that apply for PhD. But just check this out. On the same school on the site, you must apply directly to the graduate school at Washington State University to enter graduate studies in the Department of Chemistry, accepting PhD applications. Sorry, not accepting master's application at this time. You are going to find this kind of information a lot in the website of very many schools. But mind you, I also said that just as you will find very many schools that are telling you that you can't apply for masters, you will still find many that you can apply for masters. Unfortunately, most of us in this part, because of our orientation of the UK system, once we finish our BSc, the next thing that we are thinking of, if at all we want to continue with schooling, is a master's. And if you are looking out for a master's and you are checking out American universities, you will definitely find a master's degree you can apply to. But note that I told you right from inception that if you are applying for a master's, you won't get any form of funding and you will have to pay, and it is quite expensive. So it's better for you to just try and change your orientation now and start looking ahead towards a PhD post your BSc study. Now, I'm going to go to, in the same Washington State University, this is a PhD in pharmaceutical sciences and molecular medicine. So if you are applying for a PhD in this department or faculty, these are some of the areas that you can specialize in. Now, for this department, I would like to show you one interesting piece of information that the department put out under tuition and finances. Now, the College of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences offers multiple funding opportunities to ensure that our students are prepared for the next step of their education. Now, graduate assistantship. All PhD students admitted to the program are offered financial support in the form of teaching or research assistantships. Financial support is offered separately from admittance to the program, and it is made on an individual basis. So these are some of the things that we can talk about later in the follow-up. Teaching assistants are expected. No, I'm not going to read all that. What I need you to take note of here is all PhD students, meaning that if you are applying for a PhD in the Faculty of Pharmacy in Washington State University, if you get the admission for the PhD, you will also get the funding in the form of graduate assistantship. That's settled. Now, Purdue University. Purdue is in Indiana, in the United States. Okay, so now for Purdue University, I decided to check out animal sciences. All right, we also have animal sciences in OAU. You know, these are some of the courses that students don't like to study. But like I said, it doesn't even matter which course you study at the undergraduate level. You will find something that suits you at the PhD level if you're applying to the United States of America. Now, look at the statistics. 42% of applicants are admitted, meaning that the admission is competitive. But this is the interesting part. 93% of students that are admitted receive funding. Now, the funding, 2% of it fellowships, 89% of it research assistantship, teaching assistantship, 1%, meaning that 90% of funding for PhD students in animal sciences in Purdue University is in the form of graduate assistantship. Now, this is interesting. Let's also look at, okay, we've covered this. Let's look at Minnesota. University of Minnesota. Now, one thing that I would like to say here is once you get to the website of the American universities, the first thing you need to check out is academics or admissions. But here, academics and admission is together. Most schools separate academics from admissions. But once you get to academics, you will be able to see a list of programs that are available at the PhD level and a list of programs that are available at the BSc level. And you will pick graduates. You know, they don't say postgraduates, they just call it graduates. So once you pick graduates, you can go and look at, like here, majors and programs. You can select any program that you like and then go check them out. All right. Now, still under this university, graduate school, choose your program. We can come back and look at this later, but this is where I want you to see. All right, so this is like a list of programs: accountants, masters, postgraduate certificate, masters, postgraduate certificate, masters, doctorates, masters, postgraduate, masters, doctorate, masters, doctorate, anthropology, applied economics, applied plant sciences, architecture, arts, history, Asian, Middle Eastern culture, doctorate. So astrophysics, audiology, biochemistry, so it begins in alphabetical order. It goes from A to Z. And that is how it is for most of the universities. And that's why I keep reiterating that it doesn't matter the course that you study as an undergraduate, these opportunities are available for you. Now, I want us to consider this particular department. This is Department of Theater Arts in OAU. Very interesting department. Now, if you are applying for a PhD in theater arts in the United States of America, well, this is University of Minnesota, Department of Theater Arts. You have undergraduates, you have graduates. So if you already have a BSc, you are checking out graduate studies. Okay, now a little more information about theater arts PhD. Now, look at resources for graduate students. You can see funding here. Okay, so the moment you click funding, you will be directed to another site where all of the information is available. Now, this is where I need you to pay attention. So here, they have a MA, they have a PhD program. All students accepted into the program are supported by a combination of fellowships and employment as teaching or research assistants. These 5-year funding packages cover tuition and health benefits and a living stipend for the 9-month academic year. So this is something we can talk about later, this 9-month academic year. But on this site, you are being told categorically that if you are applying for a PhD in theater arts in this university, once you get the admission will also come with funding in the form of teaching or research assistantships. Okay, good. Let's also look at another department. This is the Department of Sociology. Now, in the same university, all right, you can take your time to go through later, but I just need to emphasize this to you. In the Department of Sociology, under funding, all students admitted to the graduate program are guaranteed 5 years of financial support through fellowships, research, and teaching assistantships, or graduate instructorships. Continued financial support is contingent upon timely and satisfactory progress in the program, and then they went on and on and on. The average stipend for the first 2 academic years is 23,000 US. You can take your time to read up much here. All right. So I'm going to go back to the presentation now. Okay, good. So we're back here. Now, what are the admission requirements? Now that we have settled the fact that if you are applying for form of graduate assistantship. So now we want to look at the admission requirements. Now, I have listed them here. There's someone in the background that is causing a lot of noise. I don't know if there's anybody that is not muted. Can you please try to mute yourself at least until we are done with the presentation so that When it is time for questions, then we all can unmute ourselves and try to hear ourselves. I'm making an appeal here, please. Now, the requirements for the admission, I've listed them here. This GRE, also known as the Graduate Record Exam. Then you have this TOEFL, is a test of English language proficiency, your transcripts, your statement of purpose, recommendation letters from 3 persons, preferably your lecturers while you were doing your BSc, and your CV. So I'm going to take my time to break down each of these requirements. Now, let's start with the GRE. The GRE is an intelligence test, and usually a minimum of 3 months is recommended to prepare for the GRE. If you can spend more than 3 months preparing, it's not a bad idea, but if you don't do 3 months, you probably might not prepare properly to get the right kind of score, because if you do the GRE exam, you have to score really very high in order for you to be considered for the funding. You know, if you're applying for a PhD program and you are writing the GRE exam, you should score nothing less than 85% of the available marks. In fact, if you score 90% and above, you become very attractive. And you might start getting offers from universities that you didn't apply to. All right. So this graduate record exam is the most important admission requirement, especially if you want to be considered for funding in the form of graduate assistantship. So later in the follow-up, for those people that fill the forms, we're going to share some more information, materials, and links concerning the GRE exams. Now, if you score very high in the GRE, this can also help you to make up for a low CGPA or deficiencies in your transcript. Now, the reason why I put this here is because in my department in chemistry, I meet a lot of students that didn't apply to study chemistry right from the inception. And just because of that, they have very low enthusiasm with respect to studying and learning and assimilating concepts in the course. In fact, most people go through their 100 level and their 200 level with this mentality of, oh, I'm a loser, and just because of that, they don't do well enough. And by the time they get into 300 level and they begin to see the prospects in the course, their CGPA is battered. Some people's CGPA is gone already, you know, and their transcript will have so very many deficiencies, which might not mean that they are unintelligent. I've met really very intelligent students with very poor CGPA. But if you want to apply to a university in America for a PhD and you're writing the graduate record exam and you already know that you have a very bad CGPA, just make sure that you score more than 90% in that GRE exam. You know, once you are in the very high percentile score for the GRE exam, that makes up for deficiencies that you have in your CGPA. Down the line, during the consideration for the admission and funding, you might have to do an interview. I've had very many students from my department that have had to do the interview. Sometimes, right from the interview, the assessors make up their mind that, oh, yes, this is the person we want. And sometimes during the interview, if you don't answer the questions satisfactorily, you might not just be considered, irrespective of your high score in your GRE. But, you know, the starting point is to make sure that you prepare well for the GRE and you get a very high score. Okay? Now, you are allowed to fill 4 schools at the point of registering for the exam. So once you pay to write the GRE exam, you know, you are allowed to put in the name of 4 universities that you would like your results to be sent to. However, if you are applying to more than 4 schools, then you will have to pay a little extra for every other school. It's small money, actually. It's not a lot of money, So we can talk about the cost of writing the exams later. Now, now before I continue, I don't normally recommend that students apply to 4 schools, because just as you can be admitted, you can also not be admitted. And it is possible that the 4 schools you would apply to might all be rejected at the end of the day. So it's a probability thing too. You might need to apply to more than 4 schools. I've seen students that applied to more than 10 schools. They got several rejects, but at the end of the day, at least one of the schools gave them admission with funding. Many of them are no longer in the country today. I've seen somebody that applied to as much as 18 or 20, but these people that applied to very many schools are people that didn't have to pay application fees, because this was waived during COVID, and it's been like that since then. So we would also talk about that later. Now, the result from your GRE is valid for 5 years, so that once you write the exam and you get your score, you can use it to apply and keep applying for 5 years. After 5 years, you would have to write another one. The result is displayed automatically on the screen immediately after the exam, and you will be prompted to send the results to the schools that you filled in, or you decline sending the results. Now, if you see the results for the exam and the result is not satisfactory, you might just decline sending it to the schools that you filled in, and then arrange to write the exam again. So normally, if you are not satisfied with the result, I think you have 3 weeks waiting interval before you can rewrite the exam. So I've seen a case whereby a student wrote the GRE exam, was not satisfied with the score, and then wrote it again 3 weeks later, thereabouts, and then got a better score and proceeded with his application. So those are some of the things that you can do working around the GRE. Now, the TOEFL is a test of English language proficiency that is considered especially for teaching assistantship. And the reason why this English language proficiency is important is because the American schools want to be sure that you can speak the English in a way that you will be able to communicate, especially if you have to teach students, all right? And some people will argue that, well, because I did my degree in an English-speaking country, I don't have to write the TOEFL, blah, blah, blah. Now, if you are applying for a PhD program and you want to be considered for this kind of funding in the form of graduate assistantship, the TOEFL is important. You need to write the TOEFL because the admission is competitive. There are very many people that want the admission with funding, and the assessors want a mathematical way of putting your profile together. All right. And if you don't do the TOEFL, some other person would have done the TOEFL and they would score very high in the TOEFL, and then they have an edge over you. The GRE exam is not an expensive exam to write. The TOEFL is also not expensive. There are things that you can make sacrifices to write if you are looking at the benefits that you stand to gain on the long run. So that is about the TOEFL. Next, we want to talk about the transcript. Now, the transcript is the way the school will verify your CGPA, right? And the universities in America want a CGPA at 3.0 over 5 using the Nigerian metrics. The Nigerian CGPA, the maximum is 5.0, okay? And if you have a 3.0, you are good. However, I've seen students that have CGPA less than 3.0 that applied and got admitted into 5 different universities with full funding for all the 5. and this particular guy had to, no, I think it was three, sorry. He had to take his time to go through all of the benefits and then make up his mind on which one he wanted. Now, the thing about CGPA, like I said, is that if you have a very high GRE score, regardless of your CGPA, you will still be given consideration. Well, if your CGPA is low and you have a very poor GRE score, then you don't stand a chance at all. But if your CGPA is not too high and you can work hard at getting a very high score in the GRE, then you are game. And this is not to say that you can be careless about your schooling at the undergraduate level and eventually end up with a poor CGPA. You know, whatever you reap, you will sow. These are some of the things we will still talk about later. Now, your academic records with respect to performance spread over the years from admission to graduation is also important. Now, what does this mean? It means that, let me use chemistry department as an example. You know, in chemistry, we have 4 areas. I mean, pure chemistry. You have analytical chemistry, you have organic chemistry, you have inorganic chemistry, and you have physical chemistry. And you will take courses in all the 4 from 100 level till you graduate. So if you are doing really well in one particular area, maybe organic, right from your 100 level till you graduate, and you didn't do too well in maybe analytical chemistry or physical chemistry, and because of that, it has affected your CGPA, you will still be giving consideration, especially if the PhD program you are applying for is something that is associated with organic chemistry. They will just look through your transcript and see that, oh, his organic chemistry is superb. He has been scoring A's in organic chemistry right from 100 level till he graduated, you know. And then there are times when in the university during the undergraduate days, in your 100 level and 200 level, you will do departmental courses, faculty courses, university courses, some courses that, quote and unquote, might not be related to the course that you are studying. And then when you get to the last 2 sessions or the last 3 sessions, all the courses you will be doing will be majorly courses from your department. And, you know, they will also look at that. If you do well in those last 2 sessions or those last 3 sessions, is also good for you. If, especially if your first 2 sessions where you did courses all over the place were not too good, okay? So that's why your transcript is an important component in the admission process. So, you know, sending your transcript abroad is expensive. And if you have to apply to very many schools and you have to send your transcript officially to all those schools, it's going to cost you a lot of money. And sending the transcript doesn't mean that you will eventually get the admission. So that used to be the case in the past. But nowadays, what the American schools do is to tell you to send a student copy, so that that student copy will be like a soft copy of your transcript that you paid for, but you can use that student copy for as many applications as possible without having to pay for transcript. But once you get admitted and you have accepted the admission, the school will now require you to send an official copy from your home university, which you will now have to pay for again. But that's better than having to send an official copy for every application that you are making. Now, aside from transcript, you also need to write a statement of purpose. This statement of purpose is a short essay about you, your potentials. You know, your essay about you can be about your background, your growing up, your relationship with your parents and your classmates, something just interesting about you, basically. Then your potentials, your dreams and your aspirations. And in your statement of purpose, you also have to state why you want to attend the school you're applying to and what you stand to benefit by attending the school. Sometimes it's also good for you to put in your statement of purpose some ways by which studying in the school you are applying to will benefit your home country, if at all if you will be coming back home or when you come back home, because you won't say it in your statement of purpose like you don't ever want to come back to Nigeria. Now, you also have to put together a CV. Your CV has to be concise and contain elements of the potentials that you described in your statement of purpose. The CV must have some research and work experience that relates to the course you're applying for, e.g., your undergraduate project topic or any publication that you might have from your undergraduate research project. And a time that you worked as an intern or a trainee in a department or institution or parastatal. I have some students in my department at the end of their 300 level, they come to me that they want to come and spend some time working as an intern for me in my lab. I know the reason why they want to do that. It's because they know that when it's time to apply and they're approaching me for recommendation letters, I can also put that in for them that they interned with me at a point. But why am I saying this? It's because sometimes when you are on break or you have a very long holiday, you might just consider doing an internship or taking up a trainee position in a parastatal or an institution or an organization where you will be able to, get your hands involved in some of the things that you probably would be wanting to do later at the level of the PhD. That will count for you in your CV and in your statement of purpose as well. Now, aside from your CV, you also need 3 of your lecturers at the undergraduate level to write a recommendation for you. Now, this recommendation is usually submitted electronically. The recommenders must state in their recommendation that you are competent and hardworking and that you can teach undergraduate students. Now, that's very important. And in order for you to have people in your department that will be able to write such a recommendation for you, you also, while you are studying as an undergraduate student, must demonstrate some proficiency along that line. And that's why I'm stressing competence and hard work here. Now, it is good that your final year project supervisor be among your recommenders. Reason being that your final year project will be able to give a lot more information about your competency and the time that you spent in the lab or while you were doing your research project with him or her. All the extra little details from your project supervisor will count for you. Now, application fees. An application fee is usually paid to the university for the processing of your application. The application fee is very small, sometimes $20, $17, $30. I've seen $75 before, but $50 is still a small fee. The reason why it varies is because it depends on the institution that you are applying to. So it's different for different institutions. But interestingly, since COVID broke, most schools have been waiving application fees. I guess the reason why the application fees are being waived is to encourage many more people to apply. Now, once you have submitted all the admission requirements, your file will be taken to the admission officer of the department you have applied to, and the consideration for the admission of funding will begin. Now, let me say a little bit more about this. For instance, if the first thing, I forgot to say that apart from all those things that I mentioned as admission requirements, there's also an application form, online application form that you would have to fill. I didn't remember to put that in. Now, once you fill the online application form and you have not sent any of the others, or you write the GRE exam and your GRE score has been sent and you have not sent any other thing, the moment the universities receive anything from you that is an admission requirement, a file will be opened for you at the graduate school. And that file is going to be monitored part-time so that as you start submitting things, all the items or documents you are submitting will be kept in that file. The moment you complete all the documents, you've submitted all the documents that are the admission requirements and you've paid the application fees, somebody is going to pick up that file from the graduate school and take it to the department that you are applying to. Now, once it gets to that department, the admission officer in the department will begin to work on it. They will have a committee to consider the applications from all the people that have applied, and down the line, everything just works on from there. So the next thing I want us to consider is the application timeline. Now, for most schools, the application portal opens in October. And the deadline for application for most of the schools will be till December 31. So meaning that you have October, November, December to send in your application documents. Now, some schools extend their own deadline till the ending of January, and I've seen some that extended up till February and some till March. Now, the applications completed will be assessed starting from around March or April. And by May ending, most schools would have concluded the admission. Those that will be admitted would have been notified, and they are expected to have accepted the admission by the end of May. So that May, June, that will be used for processing visa. You will be sent a form to process your visa, and you will be given an admission letter stroke, an offer of employment in the form of graduate assistantship. You will take that letter with you to the embassy. Once that letter is presented at the embassy, your visa is given to you more or less automatically. And the interesting thing about the visa is, if you are married and you have kids, the visa can also carry your spouse and your kids along with you. But there will be some conditions. Those are things that we can talk about later in the follow-up. Please remember to fill the online Google form. The link was posted in the chat so that we can have a follow-up session with you later. Now, most of the schools will resume July, August. All right, and students are supposed to be at their universities that they have been admitted to by that time. So it means that you would have to fly and be in the United States between July and August. Now, let's go backwards a little bit. If the application portal opens in October, for instance, then the appropriate time to write GRE exam and TOEFL will be maybe September or October. Why am I saying this? So that if you write the GRE exam in October, for instance, and you're not comfortable with your score, you can wait out all of November or part of October and November to rewrite the GRE exam, so that before December ending, you can write the GRE exam again if you have to. And then you can submit all the other documents that you need to submit. And then after you have written the GRE exam, you won't be bothered about exams anymore. And then you can now focus on submitting all the other documents that you need to submit. It's usually tough getting your transcripts for some universities, and then getting 3 people to recommend you for all the schools that you would like to apply to might also be tough. All right, so it won't be good for you to be running around trying to get your transcripts and running around trying to get recommenders, and at the same time be preparing to write GRE and TOEFL. It doesn't work that way. Now, so for persons that want to write GRE and TOEFL in October, they should have started preparing around June of the year before they intend to resume. For instance, if you want to resume July 2023 for your PhD, then you will start preparing for your GRE June 2022. So you can see that the admission process is very long. It takes more than a year to actually complete all the steps in the admission process. Now, preparation for GRE and TOEFL, that is the June, July, the year before you intend to resume. Now, in the months before June, the candidates can spend time to start searching for schools that they can apply to and get funding if admitted. Now, this also takes time. You need plenty of internet. You need roughly 3 months to get at least 20 to 30 schools, which will then be pruned down to maybe 10 to be applied to. So once you start searching, you will be searching based on your interest. You'll be searching based on the availability of funding. So initially, you will just look generally, and you might have to run through very many schools, and then pen down like 20 or 30 that you now want to take a closer look at. That way you can now prune down to maybe 10 or 12 or 13 that you want to apply to eventually. You might also want to begin to arrange for your international passport around the time you start searching for schools. The reason being that sometimes getting your international passport might take a while, and you will need the international passport as a form of identification to write the GRE and the TOEFL. So, it's a long-term plan, and, you need to start working way ahead of time if you are really interested in applying. Now, before you apply, the first thing you need to know is that you must have a particular area of specialization that you want to pursue at the level of the PhD. Like I was showing you departments of some universities in the United States of America. You saw pharmacy, for instance. You could see the list of all the areas of specialization. You must have something that catches your interest and that you are enthusiastic about, because a PhD is not an easy thing. The PhD is rigorous, and you have to be doing something that you really like at the level of a PhD. You can't be doing something that you are struggling with at the level of a PhD. It's going to be really very difficult for you. So, you must have a particular area of specialization, something that you are interested in, that you want to pursue at that level, and this goes beyond you just making up your mind that you want to travel out of the country because you want to go and do a PhD that is fully funded. While you are in 200 level, 300 level, you are supposed to have started, internalizing some of the things you are doing in school as an undergraduate. And at that point, you are supposed to start considering what you like, what you can do on the long term, so that when you get to the point where you want to start searching for schools in America, you will know which particular area of specialization you will be checking out. And sometimes you might have something that you are really interested in, and you just might not find it. Maybe you are using the wrong terminology, or there could be something else that is related that you don't even know about, that once you start searching, you stumble upon, and you'll be like, oh yeah, this is what I really like to do. And then you can pursue that too. But like I said, it's very important before you start thinking of applying, you must have an area of specialization, because down the line, once you start searching for schools, you will be checking out the research profile of likely PhD supervisors. You want to see the kind of research that your host or your would-be supervisor is engaged in, and if what he's doing is something that you would like to pursue at the level of a PhD. And sometimes you might even start exchanging emails with those would-be PhD supervisors to have interactions with them ahead of time, even before you start your application process. So that's about area of specialization. You also have to be serious with your study as an undergraduate student and make sure that you are assimilating what you are being taught in school, so that if you are considered for a teaching assistantship, you will be able to perform. And even if it is a research assistantship, you will not be lacking in basic knowledge and expected proficiency. Imagine you have studied physics at Obafemi Awolowo University and you have been admitted with full funding to do a PhD in physics in an American university, and you have to teach 100 level students and 200 level students basic physics in the United States. Would you be able to do that? So those are some of the questions you would need to start asking yourself right from now if you are considering something like this. You have to be competent. You have to have assimilated knowledge, and apart from assimilating the knowledge, you have to be able to discharge it as well and perform under pressure. So I'm praying that God will help us all as we begin to make this consideration. And then finally, I would like to emphasize here that school is not a scam, all right? School is not a scam. I've heard many students say that school is a scam in many places, and it worries me. Imagine all of this opportunity that we have just talked about here. You going to school in Nigeria and studying a course, even if all around you, it doesn't appear as if there are prospects in the course that you are studying. You can look beyond Nigeria, all right? You can look forward to a future outside Nigeria by virtue of the course that you are studying. For instance, I've seen students in OAU here that for one reason or the other found themselves in physical health education. And then they were like, oh, me, PE, what am I going to do? What kind of job will I do after school? Hey, put a pause there. If that is where you have found yourself, take your time, do the course well, work hard, assimilate as much as you want. And then you can write the GRE exam and apply to go and do a PhD in the United States of America. And then, like I said, most people that end up doing the PhD like that in America would usually get offers for employment even before the end of the PhD. They would have gotten a place where they will be working. And by the time they finish the PhD, they will now have the option of, oh, do I stay in the United States or do I come back to Nigeria? And for instance, for this physical health education we are talking about, for instance, now, I've gone online to check and I noticed that you won't find physical health education on the internet in American universities, but you will find things like kinesiology. Hey, wait, what kind of name is that? Well, the interesting thing is, just like I said, the terminology may be different, but it's essentially the same thing. And then you come back to OAU and you realize that in the departments that we are calling physical health education, they also do kinesiology there. What exactly is kinesiology? Well, the reason why I'm saying all this is because everything that you are doing in school as an undergraduate is important. And whatever it is you are doing in school as an undergraduate can also be a platform for you to improve yourself a lot outside of the country after your first degree. And that's why you must understand that school is not a scam. And so give schooling your very best. Work hard at whatever it is you are doing or whatever it is you are studying in school and look forward to a bright and beautiful future. So I expect students to make up their minds to take schooling seriously and work hard during their stay in the university at the undergraduate level. So I would like to appreciate the Chapel Youth Fellowship for putting this program together. I would also like to say a special thank you to the Student Life Movement, SLM, of the Great Commission Movement for logistical support. Thank you for your time. So we can open the grounds, the platform now for questions. So Mr. Abel can unmute everyone now and we can take the questions. If you like, you can post your questions in the chat. We'll take time to look at it. So I'm going to stop screen sharing now. Okay, thank you all for your time. It's time for questions. We'll take questions for 15 minutes.
Hello.
Yes,
Hello.
I'm with you. Yes.
Hello, Dr. Fadare.
Yes, sir.
So I want to congratulate you on the success of the program. I've been blessed personally. This is Chaplain speaking with you.
Oh, Chaplain.
Well,
Good to hear you, sir.
Yeah, well, I'm happy for the program, and there's something I need to emphasize that you mentioned in the course of your presentation, that school is not a scam. School is not a scam, and whatever we are doing now, we must be devoted to it and also have faith that we're getting good results out of it. And I want to encourage all our young people to be focused and know where they are going, as the Lord will bless them.
Amen.
So mine is just to appreciate you for your effort and for all those who participated. God bless you in Jesus' name.
Okay, so thank you. If you are not asking a question, please remain muted, please. Let's observe some level of decorum here. If you want to ask a question, you can unmute yourself and ask your question. But before I take any question, I've seen somebody post a question here and said, what's the difference between a scholarship and a fellowship? Well, the difference is not much. It's just terminology, semantic, basically. If you get a scholarship, you will be given money by an organization to study, free money. If you get a fellowship, you are also giving free money to study by an organization. So, but if you need to find out more detail about that, you might just go online and Google the difference between the two. All right. Yes. Question. Any other question?
Good morning, sir. All right. Thank you so much for the session. I really, really appreciate it. All right. So I want to ask, you said something about the GI, which is very, very important. Okay.
Yeah.
I have a bit of experience with the GI, but I just want to know, because what I know is that most people, most applicants look for schools that waive GRE because number one, it might be read, prepare a lot, and sometimes it can be kind of expensive for some people. So they rather look for schools that waive exams. But he said it's very, very important. So it's very important to write. But you also said something about if you write the GRE and then you do not do well, you can like do another exam. Okay, I just want to ask, my question is, if you pay for like you're writing the GRE and you pay, do you need to pay another money before you like write another one, or how does that work? Because I really don't know.
Okay, good question. All your questions are centered around the GRE. Now, I have this mentorship group in the department where I coach students in my departments, about this application process and all like that. And when COVID broke, most of the schools in America put it on their website that they are waiving GRE. And they were all so excited. Oh, we don't have to write GRE. We don't have to do the GRE and all that. I told them, look, you better go and write the GRE, because the truth of the matter is you can be given admission for the PhD without funding. I've seen very many cases like that. But just think about it. They need to give people that will come and work for them as either teaching assistant or research assistant. how do you expect them to verify using their own standard that the person that they want to give that funding to is competent? The only way they can do that is the GRE. So even if they don't tell you that you should write the GRE, you must understand that this is not about just applying for the PhD. This is also about getting funding. So in order for you to be considered for funding, whether it is written on their website or not, you just have to write the GRE and you have to write the TOEFL too. Those two exams are critical, extremely important, all right? And if you write the GRE exam and you're not satisfied with your score and you want to write it again, you will have to pay to write it again. And the minimum time you can write it again is after 3 weeks, but you will still have to pay to write it again. Okay, good. So any other question?
Good morning, sir.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, sir. Actually, my question is not really for you, sir. It's mainly for the organizer. Please, can we have a forum, like a WhatsApp forum for a follow-up, like so that maybe when we want to do the process or want to take all this process, we have something we have people who can interact with to guide us.
Okay, good question. I announced a couple of times while I was giving the presentation that we have shared a link to fill a Google form. Okay, I've just shared it again now in the chat. Everybody that is interested in a follow-up should fill the Google form. And in that form, you can put the number you are using for your WhatsApp. And the reason why I'm saying this is because we probably won't have another webinar like this. Every other conversation will continue in the follow-up, like in that WhatsApp group. For instance, if you want to write your GRE and you need to know where to register for the GRE and how much to pay or where to pay, you need information. The curriculum for the GRE, the materials and links to practice to write the exam. You know, there are so very many information that will be available for you if you fill the online form, the Google form, so that we can create that platform for you. And it doesn't have to be WhatsApp, it could be Telegram, depending on the number of people that will be in the platform. Okay, so I've just shared that link again in the chat. So anybody that has not filled, if you can't fill it now, you can copy it from the chat, put it somewhere, and then fill it later on. All right, so I guess that has been taken care of. Now, somebody asked a question that if you already have a master's from Nigeria, no problem. If you already have a master's from Nigeria, you will apply. But when you are applying, you can say in your CV and your SOP that you already have a master's. It will count for you, okay? It will count for you. But you must understand that when you get there, they won't say that because you already have a master's that you will do 3 sessions instead of 5 sessions. You will still do 5 sessions. You will do 2 sessions of coursework and 3 sessions of research. I have an MSc student that did a master's with me in OAU chemistry. And immediately after her master's, she got admitted into a university in America and she's already in the United States now. And I have very many students that did their BSc undergraduate project with me and are also in the United States of America. So in the end, it doesn't even matter whether you have a master's or in fact, if you already have a PhD from Nigeria and you are interested, you can still apply. You will get in. Okay, but once you already have a PhD is a PhD. There's no point applying to go and do another PhD, except you just want to find a way to leave the country, quote and unquote. All right, so any other question?
Yes, sir. Good morning, sir.
Okay, I'm with you.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for this session. We really appreciate it. Thank you very much. Yeah, my question is, although I came a bit late, 60 minutes late. My question is this: if you are given a PhD, you are already admitted to come and do your PhD. Is it that as you are running your PhD, you'll be running your master's degree along with it concurrently? And if that is the case, and let me say you are helping a lecturer to research, a professor, things like that, and you are teaching undergraduate students. How does it work together? Like 3 of them, you want to combine everything together. You are teaching with your undergraduate students you are doing your master concurrent, you are doing your PhD, and you are helping somebody in
Okay,
research.
good. I got your question. Now, you see, the point is, because you came in late, you didn't see the introduction. The program in the United States is different from the way we run it in Nigeria. You know, the way we run it in Nigeria, you do masters, you graduate. When you graduate, you now apply for PhD. When you are doing masters, you do coursework and a little research in Nigeria. And when you are doing PhD in Nigeria, you don't do coursework. Although in some universities, you do a little bit of coursework, but it's essentially about research. You see, in America, once you are admitted for the PhD, that PhD, the first 2 sessions is for coursework. That is synonymous to doing a master's in Nigeria. And the remaining 3 sessions is for research. Okay? So once you are admitted for the PhD, you are doing a PhD, you are spending 5 sessions. All right? And if you now get funding in the form of teaching assistantship or research assistantship, that means that you will be working for the university just as you are studying. For instance, when I started my master's in OAU, I also got employed down the line as a graduate assistant. So I was doing my master's, and at the same time, I was working for the department as a graduate assistant. When I was doing my PhD, I got promoted. I was no longer graduate assistant. I was assistant lecturer, and I was working in the university. And I'm still working in the university today after my PhD. It is not easy. It is stressful. Okay, I'm not going to lie to you. And that's why it is not free money. My first student that went to the United States, after some weeks in the United States, you know, the first thing he told me was like, Uncle Tomide, go easy, oh. Why? He does 19 hours of work every day. How many hours do you have in a day? 24 hours. And this guy is telling me that he does 19 hours work every day. He told me that once he gets to his room, he's completely exhausted. Look, if your chemistry, I'm talking chemistry now, if as an undergraduate, your chemistry was very poor, such that when you get there to do your PhD, you have to read and read and read and read and read so that your head will now be in the right way it is supposed to be in order for you to function in America. And then you now have to function under that kind of pressure. You will blow. And that's why, as an undergraduate, you must work hard and make sure that you are, well-formed and competent so that you'll be able to survive under the pressure there. But the question that you need to ask yourself is it worth it? Is it worth it? Imagine your parents don't have to pay a dime to support you. In fact, if you want to send money home, you have so much money to send home. Did you see the salaries that were on the website? That's the question you should be asking yourself. But the truth of the matter is, it is not easy. Okay? All right. Yeah. Any more questions?
Yes, Samson Aina, you can go ahead with your question, please. Samson Aina.
Okay, I'm with you.
Okay, Samson Aina's mic is not working, so he can't even hear, so we may not be able to. Okay, I'll try and put something in the chat. The audio is not connected.
Okay. Doctor.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, please, the slide you shared with your audience, will it still be available for them later after?
Yes, we will put it on the follow-up platform that we create.
Okay, I think they should be informed properly.
Yes. And then somebody put a question in the chat. He said that if he already has a master's and he wants to apply that, will the master's transcript be acceptable in lieu of BSc transcript? The answer is capital N-O. It has to be your BSc transcript, okay? It has to be your BSc transcript. But the master's that you already have, we count for you, all right, during the consideration for the admission and funding, all right? So you will put it in your SOP that you already have a master's, because whatever you did in your master's will also be a part of your essay in your SOP about your potentials and your aspirations, okay? And then you also put it in your CV. Then the people that are recommending you will say that you have some level of research experience at touching your BSc, and that you have already completed an MSc, which further buttresses the point that you have a lot of research experience. So it will definitely count for you. But your transcript that you send during your application has to be your BSc transcript and not your MSc transcript. Okay, so just a few more questions and then we can end for today.
All right.
Okay. Yeah.
All right. So I wanted to ask a question, and I wanted to ask that or how can somebody fill up gaps in their CV? For example, if you probably graduated like 2 years ago and you want to start applying this year, and you are probably doing something else different from what you studied in school, and start applying, and you mentioned something about your CV, showing your experience and stuff. So my question is that how can somebody fill up that gap of 2 years?
Okay, good question. Good question. You can't fill up the gap, okay? And don't even try to. Once you are writing your CV, anything you are putting in your CV must be related to what you are applying to come and study, okay? And it doesn't matter whether you graduated 5 years ago or 10 years ago. It doesn't matter at all, right? So that if you've been doing other things, okay, and you now just have an eureka moment and you're like, oh, I need to apply to go to the US. You will just put into your CV all the things that are related to the department that you are applying to within the time frame that it is relevant. Okay. You see, that's the reason why they want you to write the GRE. Imagine you did chemistry, as volatile as chemistry is, and you have abandoned the chemistry for 5 years or 6 years, and then you now want to go and do a PhD in America, and you will have to teach that chemistry. That's going to be extremely difficult, and that's why you write the GRE exam. If you do well enough in the GRE exam, and then they will organize interviews for you, okay? And at the level of the interview, once they start asking you questions and the way you respond to the questions, we also give them some information that will guide them whether to consider you or not. So if you've abandoned what you did as an undergraduate for a while and you are now doing something else, if the something else is what you now want to apply on, fine. But if the something else is not what you want to apply on, don't bother to put it in your CV, and make sure that whatever it is you are applying on, you can demonstrate a level of competency, right? But the truth of the matter is, I know a lot of people that have left school for some time and still went ahead and applied and gotten, the GRE, like I said, is an intelligence test. And if you've been away from books and schooling for a long time, that 3 months that I said in the presentation is critical. In 3 months, everything can come back, okay? And if you need to spend more than 3 months preparing for the exam, the ball is in your court, right? As it suits you. But there is nothing that you can't do. There is nothing that is not possible. Okay.
All right, thank you very much.
Yeah.
Okay, Doc, there's another question in the chat, please.
Chat. Yeah. This person has MBBS. That is in the medical line. Fantastic. Look, for this particular person, all you need to do is just go to the website of any university in America. With this, your MBBS, you can still do a PhD. You will find it there very plenty. I've mentored people in the medical line as an undergrad. I told you that I have a mentorship group, and there are times when people in my mentorship group are beyond the sphere of chemistry. I've had people in engineering, and I've had somebody in health sciences, and when you are getting your MBBS as a medical student, there are 4 streams, basically. You have physiology, you have anatomy, you have biochemistry, and something else. You see all those areas, they have some areas of specialization embedded in them that you can do a PhD on at the advanced level. Let me give you an example. I had a medical student that was in dentistry in OAU, and we were always talking about this application to go and do a PhD abroad. And when I told him to go online, to go and start searching, he came back to tell me that, well, he would like to do a PhD in maxillofacial surgery. I was like, which one is maxillofacial surgery again? He said, when he got online, he now started seeing things. There are very many things that you don't even know that are possible that you can do, that are there waiting for you. Okay, so don't look down on yourself and don't limit yourself by virtue of where you are at the moment. The most important thing is, once you have made up your mind, go to the internet, go to the website of the schools and start searching. All right, but it's always good to have an area of specialization in mind. Like this person that has an MBBS, for instance. Now you are supposed to have something that catches your interest, that you want to pursue, further. So this my student, he has graduated already, and we sort of lost contact. But I'm sure that if he eventually applies and he gets to the United States, he won't be going to the United States as a medical doctor. He will be going to the United States as a PhD candidate. And I'm sure that after that PhD, if he still wants to practice as a medical doctor, the option is still open for him. But the most important thing is, this is an opportunity for you to add value to yourself and improve upon what you are maximally, even beyond levels that you can comprehend. So this seminar, this webinar we are doing now, is to let you guys know that you don't have to be thinking inside the box by virtue of the fact that you are in Nigeria. This webinar is for you to know that from today, you can start thinking outside the box, thinking about how you are going to study outside Nigeria and work and live outside Nigeria, regardless of what you're studying right now as an undergraduate, okay? But that doesn't mean that everybody must leave the country, okay? Because I'm here, I had the opportunity to go, but fate happened to me, and I'm here, and I'm not suffering, okay? If you are going to make it in Nigeria, you will still make it in Nigeria, right? But this is just for you to know that you don't need to be in a cage in Nigeria. All right, so I think I did justice to that. So we'll just take one last question, one more question. Galaxy, you say your question has not been answered. What is your question? Can you post it again?
Okay, while we wait for Galaxy, there is another one, Doc. Please help us answer it.
He said in Nigeria, one is required to go through PGD when changing fields of study. Well, in America, there's nothing like PGD. You just have to follow the paths. In America, they call it career progression. All right. But there are some careers that are interrelated. For instance, you can do chemistry education in Nigeria and go to America and go and do pharmaceutical chemistry at the level of the PhD. Why? Because they are related. Okay? You can do chemistry education. Oh, okay, let me give you an example. I know somebody that did mathematics education in Adeyemi College of Education in Nigeria here. And well, that person graduated with the first class, which is commendable. And the person left on this platform to go and do a PhD in computational mathematics in America. Now, that person's research, while he was doing a PhD in mathematics, was using ordinary differential equations to model tumor growth in cancer patients. Now, by the time that person graduated from the PhD, the person landed a job with AstraZeneca. I hope you know that AstraZeneca is one of the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world, and they were one of the people that made COVID vaccine. Look at the career progression: mathematics education, PhD mathematics, now working with AstraZeneca, a pharmaceutical company. So when you are talking about changing field, which field are you changing and to what are you changing to? And that's why it will be good. You know, I said area of specialization. Right from now, whatever it is, the course that you are studying, you can go to the internet and go and look at a career path that you can take, starting from where you are, that will take you close to where you think you want to be, and just follow that path. All right? Because there's nothing like PGDDL. You just transit smoothly from one point to another. Somebody said, can you explore having an entrepreneurial outfit from this? Oh, why not? If you have your PhD and your research is something that can translate into commercial value, when you get to the United States, you can patent your findings and set up a company around what you are doing. You know, if you go and look at Silicon Valley, there are very many people in organizations and companies in Silicon Valley in the United States that the people that started those companies, they have PhD. All right. Or the partners, the partners of the people that own the companies have PhD. All right. So you know, once you discover something from your research, and that's why America is different from Nigeria. You do your research, you discover something new that is useful for everybody, you patent your finding, you can start a company around it. You know, the people that develop the technology for the new kind of vaccines we have today, they have already started a company around their research work. And you can imagine how much money they will be making in that company. So you can definitely explore an entrepreneurial outfit, okay, from whatever it is you go to America to do along this line of studying further. Now, somebody asked that the application fee, that would it be for each university? Well, every university that you are applying to has their specification on the application fee. So it depends. Once you start going through the website of the universities, these are some of the things that we will still teach you how to do in the follow-up platform. I think that will be all. I wouldn't want to take any more questions. I would like us to end it here. Thank you all for attending. I hope that you have gained one or two things and that your perspective has improved. Thank you for your time.